So in preparation for ADCC, I've been going through some of the competitors I might face and some different attacks that they're using. And I thought watching the Ruotolo brothers, well, in particular, Cade Ruotolo, who's in my division, and some of the ways he approaches passing the guard, and I thought I'd share some things I thought were somewhat interesting or a little bit different to what I might have expected. Okay, so first we're just going to talk about there's kind of three major areas or four areas actually that I think their passing consists of. You've got the leg pin system, which is kind of famous. They'll be stepping on legs here and working to pass around there. They've got the north-south position here, where they're looking for a few options from here. There's the stack. So often from the north-south, our opponent will start to recover, and that will lead us to a stack pass situation. And then lastly, it's dealing with leg entanglement. So our opponent starting to tie our legs up and how we deal with that. So we'll take a look at some interesting things in a few of those different areas. All right. I'm actually going to start with the north-south position and how some things I think that are different that Cade's using in this position. So the main thing I noticed and that I found really interesting from north-south was obviously there's a few attacks that they'll be looking for here. One of the main ones is just like burrowing to try to pass, and there's some, you can lead head first or hips first to try to do that. They use other things such as a duck under pass, which is kind of when your opponent's recovering to come back around and continue working to pass from that. But actually, one of the most common ways Cade was passing was going from this north-south into an under the legs pass. And to do that, we're essentially going to have to force our opponent to use a gongoa roll, which is like a guard recovery movement. Okay, so we're going to force our opponent to lift their hips up, and as they do, as they're trying to recover guard that way, we can start to get under the legs and set up a really nice pass this way. Now you'll notice that this isn't every single time he goes in. He does try to burrow in a lot of the time, but actually Cade does seem to be playing a somewhat loose or unattached north-south position, which is a bit counterintuitive to what I guess I had have thought of beforehand, thinking that he's constantly applying pressure and trying to deal with things. He's actually there are a few times where he doesn't even have his hands connected at all, really, or often it seems like his hands might be somewhat loosely connected to the legs or the upper body. And I think just looking at this, if I'm connected, if I put some pressure on Jaden's legs here, and do you want to recover back? So just do like that spin. All right. He can spin reasonably quickly and well. All right. This time, if I make basically no contact with Jaden and I have him try to spin back, then he's going to be reasonably slow. Okay, so you can do it that way or turn yourself into a gongoa. Yeah. Okay, so you see it's actually by having like good solid connection here, he's got a platform to push off and he can spin himself quite easily. Whereas if I'm a little more disconnected, that's going to be a slower movement. And what the movement or the action that Cade seems to be looking for is having an angle to be able to push a leg across body. Okay, so right now with the legs across here, I believe he would just look to potentially push the legs away or potentially wait, keep these hands somewhat loose, and as Jaden starts moving, trying to recover, here's the point where I can push a leg across body. Okay. At this point here, if he does nothing, he's giving up the pass, so he's going to have to turn, and by creating this angle, he's going to lift his hips and give me great access to an under the legs pass. So what I might look to do now, instead of really connecting and being tight, trying to pummel in all the time, is waiting for Jaden I might have my hands in position, or I might be even disengaged, waiting for Jaden to initiate that movement. As soon as I see an angle to be able to push the leg across, not towards me here, but like kind of to the down, get his left hip towards the mat here, okay? If I can do that, he's gonna have to roll his hips back up and give me good access to an under the legs pass. Looking at some live footage now of Cade using the north-south, passing through the north-south position. So And you'll see, I've got quite a few examples. Quite a lot are against Pato, who's obviously he's a world champion, extremely good guard, and to be able to pass a guard like this, you have to be doing something right. So you can see that duck under attempt off that first guard retention. We're not breaking down the duck under so much here, but we will see quite a few. You'll see quite a lot of the ways he passes are by going into a stack. Right. This is an example of just simply like pushing the legs away and finding room to sprawl in and recover. So there was no gongoa action there. But this is where, in this one, for example, you can see Cade is basically disengaged. He's not trying to burrow in right now. He's waiting for the right moment or the right angle to start to get his grips. Okay. A lot of times he will just lift the legs up like that. And that's another way, actually, just lifting those legs, another way to elicit that same reaction. So as Pato is going to gongoa out of this, he's going to have to turn, lift his hips. See how he pushes off the ground to face Cade again? And that's the timing to come in, shooting under the legs and try to get the pass. Again, even that time, there was no leg pushing. He just kind of waited for Pato to try to roll back out of the north-south position. So no real grips. See, he's disengaged here. Maybe just push the leg for a moment, but Pato's now going to have to do a big turn. See this? He has to turn away, put his foot to the mat, and that's a time to go underneath the hips into a stack pass. And he does, at some point, he does get a pass through the stack, or at least into the turtle position against Pato. Again, working around to north-south. Very loose. Trying to throw, as he recovers, you see he tries to throw that leg across. There we go, throws the leg across. And then as the hips come back, we get some recovery. We get that under the legs pass. Now against Gabriel Souza. Again, kind of loose position. I'll just go back to that. Throws the legs away. Somewhat loose positioning. And as he's in that loose position, Souza turns to try to recover, and that's when he pounces in, this time into a front headlock position. And again, forcing Souza to roll out into front headlock. Whereas obviously a strong part of the game is the das. All right, so there's some examples of the north-south position and using that position to try to set up the under the legs pass. If you want to check out more content from me, I have over 80 courses available through submeta.io.